Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners setting work session. It is Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. It is 9:03 a.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're in building 1, room 280. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. My name is Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. In the boardroom, Vice Chair Ty Menser, as well as Commissioner Gary Edwards and County Manager Ramiro Chavez. You're joined by many other staff members as well on Zoom. Today, we'll start our agenda with our COVID-19 update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services. COVID-19 update for today. Today is day 825 in the COVID response since Thurston County began in 2020. As of May 8th, the total cases, COVID positive cases reported by the state is 48,689. Unfortunately, the deaths for Thurston County are 416 since the start of the pandemic. Our 14-day per 100,000 case rate has risen to 286.9. To give some perspective, last week it was 211.7. The previous week is 133, and then a week before that was 88.7. So obviously it's trending in a direction that's we don't consider a good direction. Hospitalizations, this is the data as of May 8th. Total hospitalizations since February 2020 is 2,277. Our current COVID patients are 9 with 0 suspected. Number on ventilators is 2. The ICU available capacity is 8 adult. And our acute bed available capacity, I don't have that number. I'm having to check that because I think I have a typo on this one, so I can get back to you on that particular number. But our congregate care outbreaks as of May 9th, we have a total of 194 congregate care outbreaks since March of 2020, and currently have 9 congregate care outbreaks under investigation. The vaccination statistics, it must be a Tuesday, statistics as of May 7th, 530,733 vaccine doses have been given in Thurston County. The percentage of people initiating vaccination are 72.5%. Percent of people fully vaccinated in the county is 65.8%. The percentage of people initiating vaccine age 16 and older is 82.3%. The percentage of people fully vaccinated age 16 and older is 74.7%. And then the percent of population initiating vaccine age 5 and older is 76.6%. And then the percent of population fully vaccinated age 5 and older is 69.6%. And then the percent of eligible people receiving a booster shot age 12 and older is 58.9%. Vaccination clinics. We have a vaccination clinic tomorrow, Wednesday, May 11th at North Thurston High School from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. And then we continue our vaccine clinic at the Capitol Mall 4 days per week. It's 11 to 8 Thursday through Saturday, and then 11 to 6 on Sunday. For all clinics, appointments are encouraged by going to the website, the public health website, but walk-ins are also welcome. Testing continues today at Rochester at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the roof parking lot. Tomorrow it's at Lease, 10 to 1 in 3811 Pacific Avenue. And Thursday in Olympia, it's 10 to 1 at the Union Gospel Mission. And then Friday, it's at the Evergreen State College, 10 to 1. And again, all test sites are planned from 10 to 1, but will close early if testing capacity is reached. Now, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Abdulmalik for her portion of the briefing. And I apologize for not having my camera turned on. There we go.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are seeing increasing COVID-19 transmission within our county, reflected not just in the numbers, but also in proportion in numbers of people where screening testing is required, testing positive. We continue to encourage Thurston County residents to get tested if they have symptoms of COVID-19, even if it's consistent with their symptoms from known allergies. Just because at this point, with the level of transmission that's ongoing in our county, if somebody has symptoms of COVID, there's a significant likelihood that they may be infectious for the virus. The other piece that I wanted to share is that if folks are symptomatic and they test negative with a rapid antigen test, the recommendation per CDC is to either follow it up with a second rapid antigen test in 24 to 48 hours, or to follow it up with a PCR and not return to work or school until symptoms have greatly improved and they've been fever-free for 24 hours without medications. As our case rates go up, we continue to support our community partners with advice and technical expertise. We continue to follow our hospitalization rates closely. So while transmission has gone up, our hospitalization rates so far have remained relatively stable, but we continue to watch that closely. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Kurt, I did not know you didn't have your camera on. I thought maybe it was like a glitch. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, Doctor, what percentage of those folks that are coming down with this virus at this point in time are in need of some type of medical attention outside the home, whether it's maybe a doctor's call or going to an emergency room? What's that been running? Do you have any idea?
So while we do know that it's much lower for the currently circulating Omicron variants than it has been for prior variants, I don't have that data at this moment. I can look and see what data is available.
I tell you what, we're having a Board of Health meeting this afternoon. If you can pull that up, I just think that's kind of crucial for the public to know, what to expect. Their chances are good or not so good or whatever it is. Because I've known quite a few that have it, and I've known some that were really sick, but they didn't go to the doctor per se. They just kind of weathered it, if you will. And I don't know if we have some way of figuring how the reality of what we're faced, because I think we're going to be inevitably faced with this for a long period of time, probably.
That's a very intriguing question. And I would be curious if we have the data to track an individual who seeks medical attention or not. Because that would be a survey to each individual who has been sick by the virus to see if they stayed home or they seek medical attention. But
we don't need to know the individuals, but I don't know, would we check with a medical clinic somewhere? Doctors that have a practice at a medical clinic, I mean, are they seeing one a day, or what are they seeing? I think we need to have a little more. The numbers, I'm not saying the numbers aren't important. I'm sure they are, but I just don't know why we can't use those numbers to figure out what are we up against here, and what might folks expect. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with underlying conditions and such, whether they seek that medical aid or not. But age, health, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to get something because I think this is going to keep going for a long period of time. And I think the public would like to know if 10% of them are going to need to go see a doctor, or I don't know.
So what I will say is that the folks that seek medical attention, because the ways people seek medical attention are so varied, whether it's telehealth, whether it's in person, which is only recommended if other options aren't available due to the transmission risk, or if additional care is needed. So that number would likely be extraordinarily hard. That's part of why when we're looking at the overall risk, we're looking at, as well as in alignment with the CDC, some of the most robust data that we have really is that transmission rate and the hospitalization rates for folks that test positive with COVID-19. I can look and see what else is available to share. The other piece that I would like to take an opportunity to mention is just that there are treatments available for folks that are at high risk. So there are people that do have risk factors for more severe illness. And when folks get COVID-19 who have those risk factors, including age and other comorbidities, that they talk to their healthcare provider, even if they don't have severe symptoms, just because their treatments, including Paxlovid, which is the antiviral treatment, and monoclonal antibodies, that may be appropriate. And when given in those first 5 days of symptoms, can significantly reduce hospitalization rates and risk of severe illness as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me take a look and see what's available, and I'll be happy to share what I find this afternoon.
Doctor, maybe just one quick thing. According to the information that we're given today, we've had 612 residents in the past 7 days. So during that week's time, how many of those went to the hospital? I guess that would be, what would that actual number be that checked in at the hospital? And now I don't know how many were admitted or not. Yeah, but is that a combination of that? Who checked in? How many were admitted?
So I did want to just say that there is a lag time on hospitalizations, just because hospitals have to, because you're looking retrospectively at hospital admissions that tested positive. So there's a little bit, so for hospitals to collect that data and report that data into the system does take time. What I can say is that right now we are at about 5.2 per the state's dashboard for Thurston County. We're at about 5.2 hospitalizations per 100,000 in the last 7 days. But there's lag time, and I'm waiting for that information to pull up so I can tell you what that date range is that they were looking at.
Okay, just pretty complicated stuff. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser?
Doctor, you said this particular Omicron variant has caused less severe illness. I'm just curious, is there a way to explain why that is? Like, what is it, without going too deep into the science, is there a way to explain what about this variant is different than the previous variants?
That's actually a bit of a tricky question. With earlier variants, we saw a lot of severe pneumonias, blood clots, and a number of other illnesses that would end in hospitalization, need for ventilation, as well as in some cases resulting in death. In terms of the specifics around what the specific mutations are, in terms of the spike protein and binding and the body's specific response, it's at this point I can't quite quantify why that difference is. I can also look and see what's available and if there's some, and report back at Board of Health with my findings.
If there's a way to make it comprehensible to 3 commissioners with no medical background, that would be great. If not, I'll accept that.
Thank you. Dr. A, my question is in regards to, the possibility of a new variant. I've heard several people worried and asked me about that. And so I was like, okay, it's Tuesday. I'm going to ask Dr. A about the possibility of a new variant.
So we are seeing circulating subvariants of Omicron. I believe that, so we went from BA.1 to BA.2 to BA.2.12.1. That's now becoming dominant. We're also learning of other subvariants arising in other parts of the world, BA.4, BA.5. Right now, the good news is that even as these variants are circulating, we aren't seeing a safety signal in terms of increased deaths, and increased hospitalizations. But those are really the critical pieces of information that we follow as a public health system. So when a number of folks are getting infected all at once, each time someone's infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus, there's a chance that there will be a mutation in the virus that will give that strain an increased advantage in spreading. And so with so many people around the world getting COVID at all the same time, subvariants are popping up, and that is expected. So we're definitely continuing to follow it, but we're more concerned about variants, both that really change the severity profile of the virus, or are capable of infecting so many people at once that even if it's less severe and each person is at less risk of severe illness, if a wave were to come through, it would still overwhelm our healthcare system. So those are kind of the ways that we're really looking at it.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if this question is for Kurt, but Kurt, can you please, it's for the public, let them know the number that people need to call when they're doing at-home tests and they come out positive?
Sure. I will, give me just a second to pull that up because I wish I had it memorized, unless Dr. A, you have it memorized. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that there is a Department of Health number that I don't have memorized. However, folks can call the 2610 line, and we'll call them back. So that's 360-867-2610, and our team is able to call folks back and get that data inputted.
Perfect.
That was the number I was pulling up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll move on
The
to
county manager has his hand up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ramiro.
That's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Not necessarily a question for Kurt or Dr. Abdelmalik. It's more of an announcement. Next Monday, May 16 at 1 in the afternoon, we'll be hosting a medical provider summit where medical providers will be able to join Dr. Abdelmalik, Kurt, and myself. And this will give Dr. Abdelmalik the opportunity to reflect back on the last 2.5 years of the COVID response, but also looking forward and beyond the COVID-19 emergency, as well as many other aspects of her job that entails, that is also essential for the medical providers to be part of this conversation. So this is a forum. We asked the medical providers to send us questions ahead of time. Hopefully we can get those. But I personally looking forward to have this summit next Monday and how we can engage the medical community as we move forward, hopefully beyond COVID. Again, I just want to state that. And again, anything to add, Kurt or Dr. A?
No, we have reached out to all the healthcare providers in the county. We've put out a flyer. The flyer has the contact information for submitting the questions in advance, and we're encouraging, as the county manager said, to submit those questions in advance. We have answers for the providers during the summit.
Thank you. Can that invitation be sent to the 3 commissioners, please?
The commissioners would like to attend, then we need to make it a public meeting if that is the intent.
Well, I know I would like to attend. I'm not sure what the other 2 commissioners, but
I'm going to defer to the chair of the board.
Let's just, let me know. It's just a matter of announcing to the public that you're going to be meeting. That's all it is.
What time is it?
It's on Tuesday, May 16th at 1 in the afternoon, from 1 to 2.
Okay, I can't attend. I'd like to attend, but I can't, so I guess we don't need to.
Okay, so we'll put in your calendar, Madam Chair.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick update on that? I think County Manager, you said Tuesday. It's Monday, May 16th.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did I say Tuesday's Monday, May 16th at 1 in the afternoon? Thank you.
Okay. And we will forward those flyers because your offices from the commissioners may get inquiries. So we'll forward those flyers. Make sure you have copies of them. You can send out to healthcare providers.
Perfect. Thank you, Kurt.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
what constitutes a healthcare provider? Is it doctors, nurses, I don't know, clinics, what is that? What's that breakdown? How many people would you expect could sign up for this? Like 500, 1,000?
So I do know, so for me, I'm really excited to speak to all of our healthcare providers, and my intent was for that to be inclusive. So so doctors, nurses, folks that work in clinics, folks that work in hospitals are all welcome to attend.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to homeless strategies. Thank you.
Keely is not able to join us this morning. She's traveling to a conference, so Tom is going to provide a little feedback on that.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. So as the county manager said, Keely is off today to a national conference for the Built for Zero initiative. So this is an opportunity for us. She's also going with other members of our community, some homeless service providers, to interact with other communities across the nation who are all in the Built for Zero initiative to share lessons and to learn from each other. So we're excited for this opportunity. This is a learning session that happens every 6 months. So it's our first one to be able to attend. So we're looking forward to Keely coming back next week with something to report to you on, some things we can learn in our community. So we're excited for that. Also, this is a busy week for the Regional Housing Council. So last Friday, the Regional Housing Council had the first day of their retreat. And their second day of the retreat is coming up this Friday as well. So that's a 2-day retreat. I was unable to attend the first day, but I hear it went well. We're also working, the RHC funding work group met on Monday, and the RHC is meeting on Wednesday, tomorrow, to discuss applications that we received for this year's funding round. So we will be coming to you in a couple of weeks here with the recommendations from the Regional Housing Council on awards for both capital housing projects, as well as cold and hazardous weather and other homeless services activities that we have funding for this year. So that will be coming to you in a couple of weeks. On rent assistance continues to move forward. The update from Live Stories is, so to date, Live Stories has distributed around $925,000 in rental assistance funds and served around just about 100 households. They do have 765 applications in process, so still continuing to work with that backlog. We're actually in conversation with the Department of Commerce to help us provide a little some additional staff support as we work to prioritize transitioning those applications from CACs over to Live Story. So continuing to process those applications as we work through that. I'll also say, I know there was some email traffic this morning. CAC did meet with Mary Hall last week. They have provided the canceled checks. I see those have been available, and they are preparing for a meeting on the 19th. And CAC indicated that they're preparing the response to the monitoring report and hope to have that prior to the meeting on the 19th. So I know those activities are moving forward. And that is my update for this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll review the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting on May 10th, 2022. So we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser, the approval of the Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 agenda, and the approval of the board meeting minutes for May 3rd, 2022.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we need to amend the summary of time items is all off. There is no public hearings and it doesn't list the Board of Health, so somebody didn't fix that
Yeah.
from a previous agenda.
Yes. Good eyes. So if that can be corrected,
Yeah, we'll correct that for this afternoon. Thank you.
then add the Board of Health instead at 3. Okay, with that, we'll go to we have 2 presentations today. The first one is the Proclamation for National Police Week.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon, Sheriff Isnaza will be present, and I believe he'll be bringing some representatives from law enforcement here in Thurston County for the Board of County Commissioners to consider proclaiming the week of May 15th through May 21st, 2022 as National Police Week in Thurston County. But also that will give the board members the opportunity to thank law enforcement for all the work they do to keep the community safe.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. It's also Nurse Appreciation Week. Are we going to do anything about nurse appreciation, either at our Board of County Commissioners or at our Board of Health? I just don't see it on either agenda, and I was just wondering. I do think nurses have really put a lot on the line, especially over the last couple of years, but if you think about it, every day, I mean, and I do believe we normally recognize the nurses in our community and statewide. So, does anybody have any insight on that issue?
No, I believe we had a recognition back in, I can't remember, it was when the Board of Health, where all the nurses came and participated in that recognition. But I don't know if it's actually specifically to the.
I don't know either, I'm just asking the question.
So certainly whatever the board likes to do and any type of recognition will accommodate that for sure.
It's this week?
I guess it's kind of a goofy week too. I'm told it's not like from Monday to Friday or something like that either. I don't know that much about it. I'm just asking the question, so.
So Gretchen is here. Gretchen, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Do you know?
Good morning. Yes, it is Nurses Week. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards, for bringing that forward. I am going to defer to Kurt, though. Kurt, are you available? You know, I think he said that there was a conversation around.
The conversation was we had and recognized Public Health Week in, I want to say April. The date escapes me off the top of my head, that we incorporated all this, and with all the proclamations that are taking place in the month of May, and we have, for instance, the Board of Health, we have 2 presentations this afternoon, one for behavioral health and one for opioid overdoses. It just became a time issue and space issue on the agenda, I believe. And so we incorporated nurses into as the public health proclamation that took place in April as well. So I think that was the decision that was made.
You're jogging my memory, Kurt, and I think I followed your suggestion on that, if I remember correctly. So that's why we did that. We just had there's a clog of proclamations in April and May, and because we did a public health week, we decided that we'd make sure we got police weekend and behavioral health weekend, and we sort of thought of the nurses being included in the public health week, was the thought.
And I believe Gretchen and her staff was present at that proclamation.
Yeah,
It was the
okay.
opportunity to say thank you.
But, I mean, maybe we could just, we don't have to do a proclamation to say, well,
Recognition.
we did a proclamation or a recognition a month ago for nurses during public health. I just didn't want to leave them out, that's all, maybe do something like that, that'd be fine. Thank you.
If Kurt, if you could email me like or Gretchen, whoever was the right person, can email me a blurb, I could sort of just recognize during the proclamation section of the Board of Health meeting.
Maybe at the beginning.
That would be, I'd be happy to do that.
We can definitely do that. We'll do that, and we'll email you some suggested comments, and we can get that taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Okay, questions or comments on the proclamation for National Police Week, Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay, with that, there'll be another presentation and there will be an introduction to new pretrial service employees.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Nicole Carbone, she is the pretrial services officer number 2, will be introducing new pretrial services employees. And again, this is another opportunity for the board to welcome new employees to Thurston County.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
No, ma'am.
No.
With that, there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe you received some written testimony that you will be receiving orally this afternoon. So, and beyond that, I really don't have any additional perspective on that.
We'll move on to consent items if I don't see any hands go up. So there's consent items A through J, starting with 3A, the waiver of procurement policies for professional services contract with executive recruiting firm, and this is from Superior Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week, and for your consideration is to waive the competitive solicitation of professional services to allow Superior Court to hire the services of a recruiter. In this case, will be the Proclamation company for an amount not to exceed $35,000. The Superior Court has gone through the process on trying to recruit the court administrator, and they have not been successful so far. And I believe they're in the process of interviewing, reviewing applications, and I think Judge Wilson is present, I believe. Yeah, it's right here. If you have any questions. So what I believe is Superior Court is reviewing applications, but if in the event that those applications or those interviews don't result in a viable candidate, they would like to exercise this option to expand their search for a court administrator that may include really across the country. So that is really the intent of this request. And in fact, this request was at my suggestion to Judge Wilson in one of the conversations that we had over a month ago, because I believe this particular company gave us some positive results as we were going through continued recruitment for the Public Health and Social Services Director position. So you had a conversation last week, some questions. I am available to answer any questions, and I believe Judge Wilson also is available to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
County Manager, Madam Chair, may I ask a question on a previous item?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So just on the county manager's update, I was wondering, I was catching up on emails and I saw something I believe the commissioners received from citizens around Country Club about their survey they took of the community regarding the culvert replacement or if I remember correctly, they said they were gonna bring public testimony. And I'm just wondering if that happens, if the county manager could be prepared to respond in terms of what the process is or where we are, and just to kind of show where we're at and how that decision will unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. The letter has been submitted to Public Works as part of the normal process. Public Works is in the process, to find, to see what alternatives will be to replace the existing culvert. And that briefing is coming up in a couple of months, and this letter will be part of that. As you may recall, the letter you received was the result of a meeting they had with the Thurston County PUD. And the Thurston County PUD is the one who exercised, I believe, that conversation with the community. And the result of that, they provided their perspective as to what would be the best alternative to replace the culvert. So I will be prepared to answer any questions if they come, absolutely. And again, this is, we will not be able to directly respond at this point, but A or nay, because the alternatives are continuing to be assessed. And at some point, those alternatives will be presented to the board in terms of the feasibility, the impact to the environment, and as well as the costs. But that is coming up. But thank you. I will be ready to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Menser. You just took an item off my commissioner items.
Great.
I exactly had that down. I saw that and I was like, oh, an update would be nice. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Moving on to consent item 3B from Public Works and AIS SWAC appointment, Joe Downing.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is for your consideration, is an appointment for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee to appoint Commissioner Joe Downing. As you recall, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is composed by representatives, elected officials from jurisdictions, as well as the Port of Olympia, and also members of the industry who form this board. In this particular recommendation, the Port of Olympia nominated Commissioner Downing to be part of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. In this particular appointment, serves from May 2022 to May 2025. Commissioner Downing has participated in the past on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and he's well aware of the mission and intent of the SWAC. Jeff Bickford is here to answer any questions.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have nothing else to add. The County Manager, I believe, covered that very well. I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
And I don't have questions as well. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on to item 3C from the Commissioners, reappointment to the Historic Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You discussed this particular appointment and the board agreed to reappoint. We'll bring this item for you, formal reappointment of Mr. Charlie Rowe to the Historic Commission, and he's represented District 1. He's a current member and has been a long-standing member in the Historic Commission. If the board approves, his new term will be from July 2022 to May 2026. And Jeremy is here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
No questions.
No.
Thank you. Okay, the next items are reappointments to the treatment sales tax, and that is item D through G, and then item H and I are the new appointments that were recommended.
Yeah.
So,
thank you,
Go
Madam
ahead,
Chair. Item 3D through 3G, as you stated, as reappointments. So let me walk you through each one of those reappointments to the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee. Item 3D is for you to consider reappointing Ms. Janita Jackson, and her term will be for 2.5 years, which her term expires December 31st, 2024. Item 3E is to consider reappointment of Ms. Gina Thompson. And also will be for a term of 2.5 years, but also expires her term on December 31st, 2024. 3F is to consider the reappointment of Mr. Bob Jones, and his term also will be for 2.5 years, but also expires December 31st, 2024. And the next consideration for reappointments for Ms. Wendy Turner for 1.5 years, which her term expires December 31st, 2023. The new term, that will be. And the next two appointments for consideration 3H and 3I is new appointments, new applications, and I believe that's the board wanted to have a conversation. 3H is the consideration to appoint Ms. Tanya McClanahan to the Sales Tax Advisory Committee for a term of 2.5 years, which will be expiring December 31st, 2024. And item 3I is to appoint Ms. Sarah Estasio, again for 2.5 years, which that term will be expiring December 31st, 2024. And I believe Commissioner Mejia would like to have a conversation related to those new appointments with the board.
Thank you. No, our conversation last week is for Commissioner Menser's information is that I remember last year our conversation was really robust about this, so I just wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity, if there were questions, to be able to ask those. So Commissioner Edwards, I saw your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
I don't have any questions on any of the applicants. I guess I just have a quick question about the expiration. I see one is 1.5 years, the rest are 2.5 years. And I'm just wondering about if it's better for the Treatment Sales Tax Board to have more staggered expirations, just for continuity, kind of to continue the group along rather than a bunch of new folks. I was just wondering how that all fit. That was my only question. So, I don't know who would address the whys or if that might be beneficial or not beneficial or.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Hennon, Public Health and Social Services. So we did look at when both current committee members and reappointing current committee members' terms would be expiring, and tried to line up. There will, no matter how you do it, there will be multiple people rotating off at any given year, but we think we have enough staggering to have some continuity. And the one request for 1.5 years was based on that committee members kind of
I'm good.
commitment she wanted to make at this point.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Menser, questions, comments?
I don't have my, I was supporting the recommendations of the committee, and so are these consistent with that? Because I don't have my memo from that last meeting.
It is attached on as part of this packet.
They are consistent with the recommendations from the committee.
Then I'm good to go.
Perfect. Okay. And I'm good to go on those two appointments as well.
Okay, so we'll keep it on the agenda. Thank you very much. So, Madam Chair, the next item, there is a typo on item 3J. The board will fix that for this document.
I saw that. So item 3J is the appointment to the Thurston Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Go ahead, County Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is for your considerations, the appointment to Mr. Derek Day to the Thurston County Planning Commission. And I believe this conversation had occurred in a couple of weeks, and I believe it was a concurrence by the board to bring this for a formal action.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to department items. The first is from the auditor's office, and it's the approval of the voucher list. Go ahead, County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under normal circumstances, the approval of the weekly voucher is part of your agenda, consent agenda. As a request of a long-standing request of Commissioner Edwards, has tasked staff to see if there's any payments related to the tenant improvements at the atrium to bring this forth in terms of department items for the Board of County Commissioners to exercise their individual votes. I believe that has occurred on a couple of occasions in the last month or so. And this, again, includes a payment related to the tenant improvements that is located on page 37 of this voucher list.
Questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, the dollar amount, sir?
Oh, the dollar amounts I stated last week is $1,483,372 and 45 cents.
Commissioner Menser, questions?
No.
With that, we'll move on to item 5A from District Court Professional Services Contract for the Substance Abuse Monitoring Program.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week, and this is related to an allocation the Board of County Commissioners made of $500,000 coming from the American Rescue Plan ARPA funds, allocated to District Court to support technology in lieu of incarceration. In this particular items for you to consider awarding the contract to Friendship and Diversion Services. Last week, you asked, I believe Commissioner Mejia, is to what is it we're gonna get out of this investment? And Frankie followed up with that. I forwarded that email, but just for the members of the public's benefit. The Friendship, Diversion, and District Court will support approximately 450 SPRAN unit installation. That will be just about 450 defendants over 1 year. Each being monitored on an average of 90 days, and 100 UA units per month will also include 20 defendants for 90 days. This will be just about 500 individuals per year that will be able to support under this program for substance abuse and monitoring. And also, Frank in his email made just a sense of magnitude, not necessarily those are on point numbers, but just to give you a perspective. So assuming those 500 individuals could be held in custody, absent this program, each individual will be housed for at least 2 weeks. Will be jailed for at least 2 weeks. And that will probably cost just about $805,000 per year if that is the case. So I believe that is a great investment in reducing individuals to go to jail. Obviously, it's a good option, not just for those involved, but also from the budget point of view. And Frankie is here to add additional perspective and answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Frankie, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, summed up well by County Manager. Thanks so much.
Okay. So questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, but I think this will help our jail overcrowding issue as we move forward.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
So is this the initial launch of what okay, I know it takes time to put all the pieces in place, just checking.
Yeah, and Frank and I had a conversation as to how we can probably really keep a very robust data because this is going to give us a good indication of how effective this program will be. So I'll be working with Frank in District Court as to how that data comes and materializes down the road. So he's tracking on that as well.
Okay.
That would be great if, just for the future, if we can have that data. And how efficient this program is. I don't have any questions, but thank you, Frankie. Moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 6A, amend hoteling contracts for people experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is related to the 2021, the Washington State Legislature passed House Bill 1277. which includes an additional $100 document recording fee. Within that process, the Department of Commerce has released a portion of that. In that portion, the Thurston County was about $1,633,401. In January 11, 2022, the Board of County Commissioners approved the issuance of 6 contracts to local nonprofits, and subsequently, the Board of County Commissioners provided direction to the county manager not to execute a contract of $100,000 to the Community Action Council of Lewis and Mason and Thurston counties. So also the Board of County Commissioners asked to bring that recommendation back to the Regional Housing Council for reallocation. And the Regional Housing Council made a recommendation to really split the $100,000 contract to Family Support Center. The original award was $400,000. With this recommendation will be to $450,000, and to Olympia Mutual Aid Partners. The initial award contract was $616,189, and with this additional $50,000, will that contract be $666,189. Tom is here to add additional perspective or answer your questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Did we end up putting together some stricter criteria for, I tell you what, I'm gonna listen to Commissioner Menser first to see, and then I'll ask the right question maybe. Okay, I'm gonna wait a minute. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
So I'm just trying to sort through this $100,000. How does this relate to the county manager said they released 1.6 million to us? So what is this 100,000? Why 100,000, and how does that relate to the 1.6 million?
Yeah, so from that 101.6 million, 6 contracts were awarded. Were recommended for award. One of those was a $100,000 Community Action Council for rapid rehousing. So we're reallocating of that 1.6 million. We're reallocating the 100,000 that was initially subject to go to Community Action Council and reallocating it to these 2 awards. So there's 3 other agencies also received funding for rapid rehousing. Those projects were largely fully funded. The hoteling contracts were not fully funded, and therefore the Regional Housing Council indicated to add these funds to those 2 programs that are hoteling people experiencing homelessness.
And the other $1.5 million went to other contracts, and remind me, I know there's a little flexibility, but there's certain parameters. This is about rapid rehousing in particular, or is it broader than that?
Yeah, so it was specifically the funds were required to be used for either rapid rehousing or hoteling. Those were the 2 eligible activities for the use of these funds. As you can see, approximately $1 million went to Family Support and OLIMAP, Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, with that original awards, who are increasing their awards by a total of $100,000. The other awardees were Level Bounds here, received $50,000, Safe Place also received some money, and then Pierce County AIDS Foundation also received an award. So those were the other agencies that received an award.
What was the first one you said before Safe Place?
Love Abounds here. They're based out of Yelm.
Yep. Okay, I think I'm tracking now. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So I think we've got contracts with these other operations already, and we're just going to bolster that amount. Is that kind of that's it, right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I don't have any questions. Okay. With that will conclude our meeting. The county manager will review our sitting items. Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committees, and then the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of May 10th. We will adjourn, and at 3:30, we will pick up with the Board of Health. So with that, I will hand it off to the Chair of the Board of Health, Chair Menser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will hopefully be, I'm guessing, maybe right on time at 3:30. Calling the meeting to order, looking at the agenda and meeting minutes from April 12th. Proclamation then will follow for Mental Health Awareness Month. And Kurt, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Gretchen Thaler. She's here to talk a little bit about this proclamation and what's going to take place.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Gretchen Thaler, Maternal Child Health Division Director. And today for the Proclamation for Mental Health Awareness, we have myself, Carrie Hennon, Marilyn Roberts from NAMI is going to join us, and Mark Friedman from Thurston Mason ASO.
Commissioners, any questions?
No, I don't think so.
No question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item under presentations will be fentanyl impact in Thurston County. Katie Strozik will present that. There are slides I know that were distributed this morning. Kurt, what do we need to know?
So for that presentation, we have Ben Miller-Todd from Medic One, who will be presenting the impact for EMS for response to fentanyl overdoses. Sheriff Snaza will be presenting from a law enforcement perspective on the fentanyl overdose situation in Thurston County. And then we have scheduled John Thunheim from the Prosecuting Attorney's Office to come in and do a presentation as well. However, his ability to join us might be impacted by court hearings. So he anticipates being here, but if the court goes long, he may not be able to jump in.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, very good. And then we'll have I'll add a recognition of Nurses Week in there as well, maybe in between those two. And then we'll have the opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. We'll see where that goes. Item 4 is DCP Division Director Introduction.
And we'll be joined for that by Dr. Laura Warner. She's our new DCP Division Director. And we'll talk a little bit about her and welcome her to the county and to that important division within public health.
Can you define that acronym?
Yeah, you're going to get me on that one, aren't you? Disease control prevention.
Right.
And that's from someone who's never been in public health before, so thank you.
I ask you every time and then I remember. Yes, okay, and that's pretty exciting, I think, because that's a group that I think has been understaffed, and it's exciting to have somebody new coming in as director. So any questions, commissioners, on this item?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Next will be Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps, Volunteers in Action. Daphne Devlin is listed as a staffer, and I see Daphne on the screen.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Daphne Devlin, Public Health and Social Services. This will be an annual report of the activities and contributions of the Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps, which is a group of volunteers providing surge capacity for public health. We will have 3 members of our MRC leadership team sharing their experience with MRC, and I will present on our 2021 annual report, sharing their contributions to the community and some of their activities.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions about this?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Okay. And then the final business item is to set a public hearing on June 14th, 2022 to consider an ordinance amending Article 1 of the Sanitary Code for Thurston County. Art Starry, Environmental Health Division Director. Art, what is this all about?
Good morning. And this is an item that we discussed last week. And what it's doing is it is allowing us to amend Article 1, or at least that's what we want to have you consider and the public consider, is amendments to Article 1 that would allow us to do things like conduct administrative hearings electronically and do other things, take advantage of technology to do more things more efficiently than the current code allows. Right now, outside of the pandemic, if we were to hold an administrative hearing, it would need to take place in person. There's a lot of kind of older ways of doing things. And what this would allow us to do is have those meetings either on the telephone or to be able to conduct hearings electronically using Zoom, be able to conduct certain types of business, using electronic formats rather than, regular mail and things. So it just makes things more efficient, allows us to take advantage of technology, because the current code, again, was written a number of years ago and didn't anticipate these sorts of changes. So that's the crux of it. There's also some clarifications that take place. There's a variety of those. And when we reviewed it, Jane Futterman, who's our legal counsel who did the vast majority of the work on this stuff, just cleaned up some language and did some other things to make it more up to date. So that's the main thrust of it.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, on this adjustment to utilizing current technology, I guess, will that can be used along with in-person hearings and such like that?
Yes, so that basically it gives the hearings officer, so you can think of a hearings examiner, but our terminology is hearings officer, the latitude to be able to have it in person or electronically, depending upon the need. So it really just kind of depends on what makes the most sense for the situation. So for instance, sometimes we have to have emergency hearings to consider, say, a food establishment that's been closed or something, and it may be better to do that electronically rather than to have people in person. For more formal things, it may work better to have them in person, and it really just depends on the issue.
Will we always be able to have in-person meetings, I guess, along the way here? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
I don't want to eliminate the in-person portion.
Yeah, no, that is entirely allowable, and it really is dictated by the situation. And I know when I used to do these things, I always prefer to do them in person, but of course, when you have a pandemic or an emergency, it may not always make the most sense to do it that way.
Just for clarification, we always get a declaration or something on an emergency that kind of covers that. I would just hate to see us get away from the public that wants to participate in person to be able to participate in person, especially if there is no statewide emergency, emergency declaration. So I guess that's my concern, that we'll still have the ability and continue to have in-person options, along with the electronic portion.
Yeah, yes, this preserves those.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Art. I don't have any questions. I take a look at the specifics. I wasn't here last week, but I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, so the ordinance and the hearing notice and all that have been prepared, and they're part of the packet. And if you go ahead and authorize the hearing, then they'll be published. If not today, then later this week, so that everybody will have access to them. So we take that part really seriously, and and Jane Futterman did a great job getting everything ready in advance. So it will all be available for about a month for people to review.
Yeah, all we're doing then is really just set up.
Today you're just setting the hearing, okay. And then the hearing would take place on the 14th, which would take place as part of your Board of Health meeting. This should be a non-controversial, fairly short hearing if I'm anticipating things properly.
Knock on wood, Art.
But
knock on wood.
Yeah, I'll find some wood here. Okay, I just did it. Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Board of Health members, health-related activities and accomplishments can be reported. Health officer will give a report. I'll assume Dr. Abdulmalik will be present. She said she would be this morning. And then our interim director will give any report he might like to give. Kurt, anything you'd like to say to wrap this up?
No, hopefully it should be a fairly smooth agenda this afternoon.
Very good. Commissioner Edwards.
And I don't know who this is for, but where are we at on pop-up suggestions? Where are we at?
That was going to be my question.
I thought staff was preparing some options for us, was my recollection.
Yeah, there's Art.
Yes, and we're doing that. So I've met with staff and I've met with the supervisor of the program. We're preparing some options for your consideration. I'm going to send them to Ramiro and Kurt to take a look at, then we'll bring them back to you. So we are working on that. The one vendor in particular, that person has been permitted, they're operating, and so we think that their immediate needs have been taken care of. But we are working on some options for you to look at kind of the broader array of pop-up food, temporary food operators. And so we'll hope to have we should have those for you soon. And I apologize if we didn't have them out for you today.
I have a question in regards to that. For temporary permits, how much does that cost, Art?
It depends upon the type of the establishment. If you'll give me just a second, I'll pull up the fee schedule. I didn't have that in front of me. So, oh, sorry about that. Got too many screens going here. So a temporary food establishment for a one-day low-risk event could be $80. For a multiple food event that runs for basically a whole bunch of things for complex foods would be $485. So there's a range of fees depending upon the type of establishment that they have.
And this is the one that allows for events?
So this one currently with the temporary food establishment, the way we're operating is it would be 4 events. But again, we're preparing options for you on that one. And that's, anyways, it's a longer discussion. But yes.
What is the fee for the temporary permit for events?
For a temporary food event, multiple temporary food event for a more complex food item, like hamburgers and things like that, is $485. Okay.
And that covers the 4 events?
That's the 4 events.
And what about the one day, the $80 fee?
That would be a low risk one. For one day for a high risk item is $165.
So every day that when they have one of these pop-ups, it's $80. So if they did, I don't know, they did a weekend or if they did 2 weekends, I don't know how many they're allowed, but is it $80 for each daily event?
No, it's, so again, so what happens is if you get a single temporary food event, say you're going to be at the Thurston County Fair, that permit covers the full fair. And so if you were a low risk item, that would be $80. If you're a high risk item like hamburgers or say you're cooking chicken or something like that, that would be $165. But that covers the whole event.
Okay, I'll throw you a zinger here. What's the Kool-Aid stand cost?
It costs nothing.
Nothing, huh? Oh, okay. More to come, I think.
I guess depends who drinks that Kool-Aid.
Well, I should have said lemonade. I should have said lemonade stand. Okay.
I have a question on how we came up with those numbers for the fees for the permits.
Those fees are based upon the so just a reminder, right now, all of our fees are set to recover 100% of the costs associated with doing the plan review, doing the inspections, and all the other work associated with it, covering the administrative staff cost and the computers and all the other stuff that goes into it. So quite a long time ago, we actually did cost analysis. There was a fee study that was done to establish what our hourly costs should recover. And how to set those, and then also estimated how many hours it takes on average to do those permits, those different types of permits. And so it's then kind of a matter of just doing the math. It's saying, okay, there's an hourly rate, and there's a certain number of hours that each activity takes, and then you multiply one by the other and you get the fees. And so our hourly rates are quite high because of the different costs that we have to recover, and because we don't have any other way to pay for those activities. And those were decisions that were made long ago. I was here, surprisingly, I was here, but those were made long ago, and we're continuing with those today.
And if I may, the objective of that approach was so the general fund does not subsidize any type of permit process.
One thing that we are hoping to do, and that it got set aside a bit, was to free the county, both CPED and our office and Public Works. We're hoping to engage in a contract to have our fees evaluated, the whole fee structure done for our common permits like that, and it got set aside. But that's something we want to do because it's the work that was done to establish this is several years old.
So one more question, and maybe this can be saved once we get a presentation on that. But I would like to see a comparison with like food truck permits and catering permits, and like how often are those renewed? Just because, I mean, just the 485 right off the bat for 4 events seems steep to me, but you know, I kind of want to see the comparison with how we are with the other permits as well.
Right. So we'll be happy to do that. And then again, there's some, I can also tell you a bit about and again, Sammy's working on this, but some of the background behind the way those different inspections take place, and why, again, those temporary food permits, they do seem high because most every one of them gets inspected, you know, so it's not, well, they all get inspected. They get at a higher frequency than some of the other establishments do. So, but we'll be prepared to discuss that and hopefully be able to answer your question.
Go
ahead, Commissioner.
Another follow-up, maybe, Art, on your fee schedule. I think you're trying to charge because you're going to go out and inspect. I'm wondering why we couldn't do something like, and compare the difference maybe of what it would be or could be if we only did spot checks instead of every time. So in other words, a vendor would not know that we were coming for sure or not. Hopefully they would keep their operation up to snuff, so to speak. But I just don't see that we can always check every day on every one. And we do many, many, many things in this country based on the honor system. And so I wonder if, I'm not saying you want to come out with a schedule, but I'm trying to get away from everyday checking on everyone. That's kind of like the government raising you from the cradle to the grave. I'd like to have some flexibility by vendors to put on a good product, a good show, if you will. You know, maybe we'd get a complaint from a citizen that didn't like the fact that they didn't have hand sanitizer or whatever it is. So I'd like to figure out a way so we don't have to charge for every day and do an inspection every day, but we would do almost like we do with regular restaurants. I realize that's it, you know, a set location and all that, and set hours, but.
Okay. Well, again, we'll be prepared then to have that discussion about why, you know, what's in the code, and again, we can talk about why that's in there, and then have that discussion about what the risks and rewards or costs and benefits of changing the inspection frequency for certain types of establishments.
Okay, with no further questions, that will wrap Board of Health, and I'll pass it back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Commissioner Menser. Would we like to take a break now?
Sure.
Okay, so, or do we want to review the May 17th agenda?
Call on the
Okay.
break, Madam Chair.
Let's go on a break then. So we'll be on a break until 10:30. Does that work for everyone? 12 minutes?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, are we back?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, so we are back. It is 10:31 a.m. and we're going to pick up where we left off, which was the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for May 17th, 2022. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. At 2:05, we'll have two presentations.
Yeah, we don't have a public hearing, so we'll revise that as well. Is that carry over from the previous one, so we'll fix that.
Perfect. So there'll be an approval of the Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 agenda, and then
Flag salute, maybe?
the approval of
The
the,
Pledge of Allegiance needs to be added.
and so the Pledge of Allegiance, who's doing it this week?
That would be mine, I think.
So, okay.
Next week, I think.
Okay,
today.
Commissioner
On
Edwards.
today.
Yeah, next week is Commissioner
Yeah.
Edwards.
I missed
Yeah.
that.
I can handle it, I guess.
Okay.
So, and the board meeting minutes, they'll be for May 10th.
Yep.
Okay. And the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Gary Edwards. At 2:05, we'll have two proclamations or presentations. The first one will be a proclamation for National Public Works Week.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Every year in the week of May 15 or thereabouts, there is a national recognition. It's considered to be a National Public Works Week in Thurston County. And again, this is in alignment to a state and national celebration, celebrating all the public works staff and all the great work they do on a daily basis. Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director, will provide a brief presentation, and I'm sure she'll be bringing the staff from Public Works to be present, and also for you to give the board the opportunity to say thank you. What I call the unsung heroes of keeping all that infrastructure in Thurston County safe and viable. So looking forward to that myself.
Former Public Works Director.
Former Public Works. Well, somebody may say recovering Public Works Director.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
My only question would be, in the past, and I don't know if it's annual, we've done something about some rodeo. Driving trucks or graders or pretty complicated stuff. And maybe that was when we won a national award or something. We did something. I just wondered if we're having anything like that. Is that connected, or are our staff participating in, or anything like that?
Yeah, thank you. In the past, and I believe there's a competition called the rodeo, and it's spelled as ROAD, rodeo. And what it does is some of the equipment the Public Works staff utilizes on a daily basis obviously requires specific licenses, but requires a great set of skill. And there's a national competition. The individuals who do the performance of those vehicles on a course, on a specific time. So the top operators will move into a statewide competition. And the winners of the statewide competition will move into the national competition. I believe a few, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe before the pandemic,
Yes.
Public Works staff won a national award, I believe, related to this competition. So you can imagine some of those equipment are very complex. I was able to just ride along on a snowplow. I don't know how they do it. Honestly, I don't know how they do it, because it's just an incredible set of skills they have in order to drive and operate those pieces of equipment. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Have they doing that competitions?
I don't know. I need
this
to
year?
check with the director if they still have that. I know in the last 2 years due to the pandemic they haven't, and I don't know if they're contemplating doing that this year. But certainly Jennifer will walk you through all the many events that perhaps they have in mind next week.
Thank you.
Thurston County was well represented because I think one of our staff won award, and Intercity Transit also had a driver that won national in a different category.
That's right, yeah.
So we did well last time they did it.
Questions or comments, Commissioner Menser?
On Proclamation, no.
No. Okay. Next, I don't have any as well, is the American Public Works Association State and National Project of the Year Awards for Albany Stormwater Pond.
I believe the board is aware of this particular project that it was constructed, finalized a couple of years ago. It was a stormwater pond down in the Rochester area, and then the location Albany Street. And this particular project, has a dual function. Obviously, provides a stormwater facility, which it really alleviated the flooding that was occurring on the Albany Street at that time. That has been extremely effective in controlling the stormwater. But also what it does is serves a dual purpose because it's an amphitheater that can be used in the dry months during the summer. And this particular dual action has put this project to receive a state and national American Public Works Association Project of the Year. And I don't know, Madam Chair, you attended the last American Public Works Association conference, and I believe this project was part of that as well, correct?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
So, and I believe, and the national conference, I believe, is coming up. So this project will also be highlighted as a project of the year at the national level. I see Tim Wilson is here. I don't know if he wants to elaborate on this award. Tim?
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Not really. That's a great summary of this project. We just look forward to talking a little bit more about it during the presentation and the benefits to the community and the environment.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Related, not exactly on point, but since we're talking about Rochester and infrastructure projects, is there any updates for the board on the CDBG money that we allocated a couple of years ago that was supposed to go toward parks upgrades in Rochester?
Yes, those two projects are moving forward. I believe the school project is completed, I believe, and the next project, I believe, is underway. But I will bring back with the specifics as to where we are.
I'd be curious exactly what they ended up adding to the independent, I think it was behind the school district and then the Haas Fields area. Yeah, if we could get an update on that.
I'll do that. I know there's moving forward, but I'll get the specifics.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Yeah, thank you. I will follow up with any particular public testimony that you may receive today that needs a follow-up.
Then we'll move on to consent items. There's only one item, and that's a lease amendment extension with J4 Associates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you may recall, Commissioners, the Thurston County Sheriff's Office uses a space located on the 7721 New Market Street. That is where the core of the field operations is located from the Sheriff's Office. This lease is soon to be expired, and we would like for you to consider an extension of 1 year until May 31st, 2023. This really will give us an opportunity to look holistically as to how the needs of the Sheriff's Office are going to be met, whether it's here in campus as well as the field operations in Stormwater. There is an opportunity to expand some of the uses on this particular location in New Market Street. And again, this extension of 1 year lease will give us the time to look in more detail. And I believe the current lease holder, J4 Associates, is willing to extend that as well for another year. Any questions on this?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. If it is a one-year lease extension, might we get a better deal with a two-year lease or three-year? I know we're talking about what we might do in the future, but I'm just wondering, sometimes the longer leases carry a better deal.
I don't disagree with you, Commissioner, that absolutely on point. The purpose of extending from one-year lease, it may include additional improvements on the current location. They will change the conditions of the lease. And at this point, we don't know. We're working with the Sheriff's Office right now as to what the additional expansions of that footprint will be. So we don't have that yet. And the extension of 1 year will give us the opportunity to revisit that.
Is that information going to be coming along with the same information we're getting about the courthouse offices being revamped and stuff? Is that all kind of part and parcel?
All this is parallel to that because we, as part of the courthouse campus project, and in fact, we're going to have a kickoff meeting in a couple of weeks with the stakeholders. The Sheriff's Office, the needs in here at the courthouse is one. Also, we're going to be addressing the needs of the Stormwater office as well. So it's all parallel to that.
I see government go so slow normally that I just wonder if it's necessary to make it one, or should we make it two and get a better deal? That's the only question I'm asking about that. But maybe it doesn't play out. I see we've got somebody on the screen that maybe could contact, comment about it. I don't know, just.
So what I would say, excuse me, Chris Helmer here, and I appreciate the question, and we have been working with the Sheriff's Department to determine what they do need to expand the particular facility to increase the efficiency of their operation. We've got a lot of that information, but like Romero said, it'll take us a little bit longer to mix this in with the other projects, which are setting up the administrative functions for the Sheriff's Department, and then ensure that we have the capabilities for the operations facility as well. And the extra year will give us time to do that. There was a slight increase in the lease amounts, but the owner of the facility has been great to work with. They understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. And so this will give us the extra time we need. Hope that helps.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Thank you. Commissioner Manser, questions?
I think Chris just answered my question, which was about whether or not these are on the same terms. And he said there's a slight increase in rate, but otherwise the same. So that's kind of what I was interested in.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on to department items. Thank you, Chris. And it'll be the approval of the voucher list.
Yeah, this the next week also has an item related to the ATRM, and that is located on page 81. It has an amount of $5,686.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to Public Works, item 5A, resolution and call for sealed bids for the Public Works Solid Waste Facilities pumps, systems, upgrades, and improvements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the board knows, we currently have a closed landfill at the Hawkesbury area, also known as the Waste and Recovery Center. And the obligation to maintain a closed landfill is for 30 years. And we're just about in the year 20, so we have additional years to maintain if everything goes according to plan. One of the key elements of managing the closed landfill is to manage the stormwater and the leachate generated by the closed landfill. We have a series of pumps. They were installed 25 years ago. And during the capital assessment that was conducted in 2019, it was pretty evident that we need to upgrade the current pumps to continue the obligation of managing the stormwater and the leachate pumps. So this particular request is for your consideration to call for sealed bids to authorize the department to secure the services of a vendor contractor to replace the pumps as well as to replace the panels in integration with the ongoing process that we have, also known as the SCADA system, which is the supervisory control and data acquisition. Is twofold on this particular aspect, is bringing up to standards those pumps as well as the integrating the monitoring of those pumps with the overall electronic monitoring system we're currently in place. So this has a cost estimate of just about $2 million, and this will be coming from the solid waste tip fees, and it's already allocated on the capital facilities plan. The board already approved on this. Any questions? I believe Jeff is here also to answer any questions.
Questions for Jeff? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I see this refers to authorizing the county engineer to set this bid information. I'm just curious why it isn't the Public Works Director. Something, I don't know who's doing what over there, but I think of this as a Public Works activity rather than.
That is a good point.
I don't know the jobs well enough, but I just wonder, that's all. Wonder why.
We can clarify that point just to be sure. We'll look into that and clarify to make sure that is the appropriate person.
It's no here, no there.
It just doesn't matter?
It really doesn't, because it's the advertisements to secure the bids.
Yeah.
Based on the contract.
Yeah, I would just kind of wonder who's overseeing what. That's where I'm.
So, but I think where you key in is the responsibility of the county engineers and other roadway systems.
Yeah, that's kind of.
And this is a little bit of solid waste. No, that's a fair question.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will clarify that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menser, questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. With that, we'll move on to item 5B, resolution and call for sealed bids for the Boston Harbor Road Northeast Stormwater Conveyance and Outball improvements.
Well, I'm going to key on Commissioner Mejia on this one, because I believe Commissioner Mejia participated in a couple of meetings last year with a few citizens on the Boston Harbor area with some of the stormwater issues that we're dealing with. I believe this is a good project for the board to consider. And this is a stormwater conveyance system and the outflow of Boston Harbor Road that needs attention and needs upgrading. The shoreline stormwater outfall, which is owned by the county, is undermining the bulkhead and also is eroding the shoreline. That's number one. And also the stormwater conveyance that is along Boston Harbor is not adequate to take the stormwater generated by new development and everything associated with this area. So this particular project is intended to address that, the outfall as well as the conveyance system. They will alleviate some of the flooding that we have seen in private property. As Commissioner Mejia can attest to the fact, there has been a few meetings last year. There has been a lot of mailings. There have been a lot of bi-monthly meetings with staff and some of the property owners in that area. And also we held an open house related to this particular project back in 2021. So with the board concurrence, this particular item is for you to authorize the county engineer to call for sealed bids to secure the services of our contractor to start addressing those items. And this particular project will be funded by the storm and surface water utility rates. And Tim is here to add additional perspective or correct me everything what I just said.
Thank you, Ramona.
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, yes. Good morning again, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager, Public Works. A great overview of the project and great history. There has been a lot of engagement with the community on this project, a lot of improved communication over the last year or so, led by our Senior Water Resources Engineer, Nate Inslee. The relationship with the community on this project, I think, is very good at this point. There has been revisions at certain points based on feedback from the community on this project that have been incorporated. And so, yes, we are prepared to construct this project this summer. So any questions?
Thank you, Tim. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Is there any connection with the stormwater issue and the Boston Harbor sewer system issue? Completely separate issues?
Separate lines.
Okay.
We don't have a combined stormwater and
That's what I was.
sanitary.
Okay, that answers my questions. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Is this is a project that we've had lined up for and like when we review the financial plan for that. So nothing.
It is included in a capital facilities plan.
Okay, so there's nothing here that's new information from a financial perspective.
No, it's already included in capital facilities plan in including all the financial elements in that.
Okay. Good. Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
That's to be funded out of stormwater, it looks like.
That is correct.
And is that a pretty healthy fund? I don't know who would know the answer to that.
We can probably bring back that information. I don't think we can pull the financial plan at this point and give you.
Yeah, maybe, but this is for next week.
Yeah, next week we can give you what the fund balance that we have on the fund. We'll bring that information for you.
Yeah, well, this connects to the whole issue of having a fee study and potentially evening out fees between the different autonomous systems that we manage. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think
we haven't made that decision, but didn't we authorize the study and we were looking at the.
But didn't that have to do with sewer and water more than stormwater? Because we're doing about Grand Mound and.
No, it's two.
I can address that.
It's two things.
Yeah, I'm getting confused.
Yeah, me too. I'm confused. So
Ramiro, I could weigh in on that. So yes, the board authorized several studies, actually. We are in the last stages of a rate design study for the water and sewer utilities that will look at revenue requirements for both utilities as they stand and a consolidated model for the water and sewer utilities. As I mentioned, it's in the kind of the last phases, and we should be briefing the board within a couple months on that. We also have budget authority and are in the process of developing an RFP for a storm and surface water utility comprehensive study. So that looks at the stormwater utility, looks at our regulatory drivers, evaluates our different programs and how they align with those regulatory drivers, and hopefully will provide some recommendations for the board to consider moving forward. However, that study will probably take 18 months to complete, so we wouldn't be back in front of the board for likely a year and a half with that study. But evaluations going on all of the different wet utilities.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
And that study, is that contemplating combining the water sewer runoff? Are they talking about trying to make it all fit together?
The water and sewer would not combine with the stormwater utilities. Those would be separate.
My fault.
Separate.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't.
And I guess now I'm less mixed up, but all the thoughts, all the conversation has been about the water and sewer utility. And so now I got questions about, I don't ever remember addressing as a board member, stormwater utility rate setting or studying. And I'm just wondering, in fact, I'm realizing I don't necessarily even know how specifically those rates are set by areas of the county. It sounds like it's not just a flat rate for Thurston County residents with respect to stormwater utility. And we give 50% discount to the lake management districts, but you're saying there's a neighborhood by neighborhood assessment of stormwater fees?
No, there's not a neighborhood by neighborhood difference in fees. There is a rate structure that relates to residential properties, commercial properties, industrial properties. So it has several different structures. We are planning on providing a state of the storm and surface water utility briefing to the board later this year. And we could certainly wrap that into that briefing and talk a little bit more about the storm and surface water utility rates.
But say on a residential, okay, that's good, but say on a residential basis, that's the same across the county?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based on the average impervious surfaces. And
So when we talk about, when Commissioner Edwards asked about the financial plan or that how healthy is that account, and my brain was erroneously going to the utility account, really we're talking about the county-wide stormwater fund.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've seen that in our budget discussion.
If you may remember, the stormwater fee does not apply to county-wide. It's followed just about the UGA boundaries. So the stormwater fee does not apply to rural areas of the county. So is that correct? Tim,
Not exactly. It does apply throughout the county. It does not apply.
I think all of us are confused here.
Sounds like we got a good briefing coming up, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that information is wrapped into that brief.
I'm confusing the NPDES permit.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm with you. See,
Okay.
take me away from public works for a couple of years and I forget everything.
More to come.
Yes. Tim, I want to thank you and I want to thank Nate. You both went out there with me and did those site visits and worked with the citizens of Boston Harbor. I actually saw one of them at an event this past week and she was very thankful and she just raved about how wonderful Tim and you were and Nate was. And so again, thank you so much for working with them. And I know they were very happy with the outcome of this.
Oh, thank you for that. We certainly appreciate the addition of Nate. He's been a great communicator. And I think, as mentioned, I think we're in a good spot out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item C, which is a change order to increase the scope of Public Works Solid Waste Facilities SCADA system upgrade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me introduce this item a little bit at a higher level. When we go through requests for bidding, in the bidding process, there is always sometimes what we call alternatives. Meaning we have a base bid that's the core elements of a project that we need to do. And we have alternatives depending on how much it's gonna cost us so we can meet the intended budget. So it's not unusual to have a base bid and then we'll have alternative 1, 2, and 3. So in this particular case, back in May 2021, the board authorized the contract for $1,015,000 to Northwest Electric LLC to complete the supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA, the system upgrade project to manage the waste and recovery center activities. Within the first allocation, we included alternatives 1 and alternatives 2. It also included an alternative 3 that it was not part of the original contract because at that point we were concerned that perhaps as we move forward the implementation of the project, we may not have enough money in the contingency budget. So as we have moved forward, the department has implemented this particular contract, including alternatives 1 and 2, and has become to their attention that perhaps we not have enough contingency to award the alternative 3 of this contract and stay within the bounds of the initial budget. This particular, I'm gonna let Jeff explain what alternative 3, the elements of alternative 3 is. But again, this is an alternative 3 at the cost of $106,275, which is way within the contingency amount that we had set aside for this project. What elements includes in the alternative 3, Jeff?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Pickford, Solid Waste Manager again. So alternative 3 actually had 4 different constituents in it. There were 3 landfill gas system condensate pumps, 1, 2, and 3 that were part of that. Additionally, there was also a leachate pond aerator control station upgrade involved in that alternative. What we're proposing here is to include the 3 landfill gas condensate pumps, but not to include the leachate pond aerator control system. So of that $106,275.63 that was bid for the full alternative 3, we are only recommending that we do use $71,344.87 of that total. So that ends up being just a 7% change to their whole original contract, which will again allow us to stay under that the grand total that we have budgeted for this program. We decided not to include the one item, the leachate pond aerator control station, because upon further review by our consultant and staff, we felt that the existing functioning of that system was sufficient, and it just didn't seem like the additional expense was warranted. So we decided not to include that part of alternative 3. And willing to answer any other questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, how does this tie in with, we just got done talking about some new pumps that were 25 years old and such?
Absolutely. So the pump system will tie into the overall SCADA system that this current project that we're talking about right here. It's basically it's electronic controls, so it would allow you could be at a workstation and it would allow you to get alarms if there's something malfunctioning. It will allow you to control pump function of volume, open and close valves. So that's the broader SCADA system. The pump system they'll replace the pumps themselves, but they will also integrate into this control system. So it's a separate piece as far as the hardware, the pumps program as far as hardware, but it will be integrated into this overall control system. So there is a link between these two projects, though they're dealing with separate hardware and control.
This is all taking place at the landfill in Correct.
Yep, at the Waste and Recovery Center, correct. This is all related to the old closed landfill, the leachate system that we have, the stormwater system that we have, we have septage from the restroom facilities we have there, as well as the landfill gas system that's out there.
Okay, then this question might be for the county manager. We're also sometime back talking about a connection with, I'm just gonna say Grand Mound, Boston Harbor, somewhere else, that's water and sewer, and that's gonna be a new interface or something, a central control point or something, so all those places are feeding into one location to keep track of better? Is that, I take it these are two completely separate things, and I'm wondering if I've even got that right on the water and sewer for each one of those off-site locations that we manage.
Yeah, I don't believe this is connected to any water and sewer.
But it's almost a similar location, or it's a standalone location at Hawks Prairie, kind of to do the same thing. It's gonna coordinate all that activity. Is that what I'm hearing, Jeff?
So this, the leachate and all the liquids that are received here, so our leachate and our sewerage that we get from off the work site are directly pumped to the lot wastewater treatment facility.
Okay. I saw Tim come on there just for a minute. Tim, did you understand what I was asking, if there's some connection?
I believe so. Good afternoon again, commissioners. Yes, they are very separate. What Jeff is proposing is completely separate. I believe what you were referring to with the water and sewer utilities is our SCADA system as well, supervisory control and data acquisition. So what we are moving towards with the water and sewer utilities is the ability to monitor and make adjustments to those utilities from central locations. So you have the terminology right. They are just very separated.
Okay, and no point in trying to consolidate and having one location to oversee that from, right? I guess that's what I was getting at, was can we somehow put some things together and have it all connected at one location and just have one person monitoring rather than two locations with two people monitoring? That's a simplified.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be beneficial for either the water or sewer utilities or for the solid waste utility.
Okay.
They're very geographically separate.
Yes. But I was thinking that because the county-wide one with all the different sewer and water systems, that if we're doing some kind of similar thing, because Jeff, you're coordinating with LOT, for an example. I think these other systems that we're doing, we're not coordinating with LOT, but we're doing something to coordinate those very different geographical locations. Kind of almost putting the operation under one roof, so to speak. And I was just wondering if there wasn't a possibility of connecting those up and putting it all under one roof. Just trying to save money. Thank you. Sorry I asked. It was confusing to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Yes, so every few months, there's a agenda item with the acronym SCADA in it, and I know that it's gonna make my head hurt, and I'm not gonna completely understand what it's all about. Why is the board's action needed if we're under our 10% contingency?
My understanding is that the director would have been able to have signed for that under that contingency if it was just like a change in site conditions, but this was actually a change of scope. So that was my understanding, as we had to come to the board because it was a change of scope versus a change in site conditions that would have added cost to that.
Yeah, on point, because it's an additive to the contract, which the board did not.
And I'm sort of confused by the terminology alternative, because that usually means you do one thing or you do the other thing, but you're talking about it like it's in phases. And we're doing phase 1, 2, and now we're adding phase 3.
You can probably use as phases, but for instance the base contract that has alternative, the base contract activities is the must do.
Okay.
And then you have alternatives that you would like to do if the money allows, right?
Okay.
Alternatives 1 and 2 met the criteria of having within the budget. And that's what it was approved back in 2000, back this year.
So they're not alternative to each other. They're
No.
they're just potential
Yeah,
add-ons.
Is what cool
Is a better way to
is
think
an
of it.
additive. Yeah, and yeah, that's a better way.
Because I was confused, why are we doing alternative 3 if we've already done alternative 1 and 2? Because usually an alternative is either or.
Oh, I thank you for that clarification. It's not a comparative alternatives between 1, 2, or 3. It's additives.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And, okay, I think I'm gonna stop there before I get in more
No,
trouble.
thank you for the question. No, that was a good question.
Let me do one follow-up on Commissioner Metzer's question then. We did 1 and 2, but I thought I heard we didn't have enough money to do 3, which has 4 subcomponents to 3. So I'm trying to get that squared away in my head. I don't know, does that make sense?
No, I think you got it. So that's why we're having to add the money for the pieces of 3 that we're gonna do, which is not all of the pieces of 3.
Because in any contract, you have the risk of changing conditions, as Jeff stated. And the changing conditions, you don't know until you start building the project or implementing that contract. And on the changing conditions, you authorize the director to do a change order, change conditions up to 10% of the initial contract. Well, the project has gone well so far that contingency has not been used and give us the opportunity to go with the next alternative, the next addition, which is 3. For 73,000, as Jeff stated.
And 3 has 4 components to it somehow, and we're gonna cover all those too?
No, as Jeff stated, make it more complicated on this. The initial alternative, when we bid the project, alternative 3 had a cost of 106,000. And the department is proposing only to fund some of those components to 71,344, because the other components are not needed at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I don't have any questions, Jeff. With that, we'll go to our standing items. Commissioners will report on board work sessions on assigned committee meetings, and the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of May 17th. That will conclude our agenda for May 17th. Next is Proclamations and Awards.
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, Clerk of the Board. The Proclamation for National Police Week is included in your packet for presentation this afternoon. As previously stated, Sheriff Snaza will be in attendance to accept, and the Sheriff's Office has reached out to multiple Thurston County area agency chiefs, so we expect other local jurisdiction representatives to be in attendance as well. The draft proclamation for National Public Works Week is in your packet for review as well. That proclamation will be presented during the May 17th meeting. And then the third one included is for the Board of Health presentation this afternoon for Mental Health Awareness Month. Have a couple of updates for the boards and commissions. I reached out again to the Area Agency on Aging regarding the application for Kathleen McGaffigan, and I'm still waiting for an answer as to whether or not they have an opening on that council. The appointment and reappointment applications to the Historic Commission, Planning Commission, and Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee are included in your packets and are on today's agenda as well. Next, the staff contact for the Agricultural Advisory Committee forwarded the reappointment application for Kevin Jensen, and Craig Chance, the chair for the Housing Authority of Thurston County, also sent over a reappointment application for Vog Mayi. Both reappointment requests have been included in your packet for review as well.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menser?
I'm wondering, I had proposed, or I had made a proposal a few weeks back about kind of what I would like to see in terms of assessing filling up the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and I thought that the county manager was going to kind of prepare something for the board to look at in line with my suggestion. I don't know where we stand on that, if you've had a chance to look at that.
I have, as part of your agenda, the planning session.
Okay.
It's coming up on May 27th.
Okay.
I was planning to bring that item for you. to have a broader conversation.
Okay.
Is that soon enough, or?
Well, I mean, it's okay with me, I guess. I don't know where my seatmates are at in terms of wanting to, I mean, there's 3 new appointment applications. There's a reappointment application, and I don't want to hold the committee up in any way, especially when there's a reappointment, but at the same time, I thought I would like to see, just to remind my seatmates, my request was for the board to ask the Agriculture Advisory Committee to work with the ex officio members to provide us with some kind of an overview of the ag sectors, both in terms of dollar amounts and acreage amounts, so that we could better inform our decisions about how to make sure that the committee was representative of all the different sectors of our agricultural economy and community. That would help me a lot in trying to sort through the selections that we have. So I would just say sooner rather than, if I'm gonna get a second vote to do that, then I would like to do it sooner rather than later so we can get the appointments made. But I would like to see that information before I vote on any other applicants. And this is just me trying to sift through what's been a difficult situation over the last 6 months with the committee. And if my seatmates have better ideas, I'm open to hear that. But that was just all I could come up with to try to break the kind of impasse we found ourselves at.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I too am kind of waiting to come to a clarification on this issue so we can come to a conclusion on these appointments. And I think we had testimony from the chair of that committee. And I think because of the lack of membership, or positions filled on that committee, oftentimes their meeting consists of 4 people or something like that are actually board members, and then it boils down to 2 making a recommendation to this board. So for all those reasons stated, I think a week ago by the chair of that committee, I'd like to get this done so that we have a full committee to make review and recommendations. So I don't know how that fits in with Commissioner Menser's time schedule, but I kind of want to get there too at some point, because we are moving forward on some other issues related to ag activities, parcels of land and retention. So I actually don't know where we're at on that myself. I'm just kind of waiting. I'm hanging fire to vote with somebody that will help us get this thing going.
Let me follow up on that.
Okay. Now, are you gonna do that right now?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna fill us in on all the parts we were missing.
No, I think you, related to this, you received a letter from the chair of the Thurston County
Conservation
District. Related to, I believe the intent of the ask was for the board to consider declaring a crisis of farmlands in the county. So I just want to acknowledge receiving that letter, and that is in your inbox.
Okay. More to come. Sounds like more to come pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be clear. Timing is, I have no intent of delaying anything. And I checked in with Stephen Bramwell to see, and he assured me that the data that I'm looking for, he could very readily help the committee assemble that, and with working with Sarah Moorhead at the Conservation District, he thought they could put that information together in pretty short order. So that's what I'm hoping we can see.
Maybe reach out to Stephen.
Okay, next PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I just have 2 quick updates for you this morning. So I've updated the social media and logo policies per feedback from the executive team for the Policy and Procedure Work Group. They are now with legal for review. After legal review, I will bring the policies to you for an overview during an agenda setting or a check-in before it comes to you for formal adoption. And then secondly, so Q13 ran a report last night with the headline, "It's Selective Enforcement, Olympia Man Told to Move RV Off Private Land While Others Allowed to Stay." So the story is about a property owner who has an individual living on his property in her RV. Our compliance office received a complaint for the RV as it's been there for longer than 60 days, which isn't allowed per county code. I just wanted to point out a couple of inaccuracies in the report, as staff have already received a couple of emails that were kind of negative. So I just want to make it clear that there are some inaccuracies in the report. The report states the property owner lives in Olympia. His property is actually located within Thurston County and falls under Thurston County jurisdiction. The report states that there is selective enforcement because of the RVs on Ensign Road. Ensign Road is within the city of Olympia's jurisdiction, not Thurston County. Thurston County has not allowed RVs on Ensign Road to remain as stated in the report. And then lastly, the property owner did not receive a written warning from the county as stated. The property owner received a contact letter. So this is standard procedure to request communication with the property owner to discuss possible violations. So compliance is working with the property owner. So I just wanted to make that clear that there were some inaccuracies in that report, especially the jurisdictional differences between Ensign Road and Thurston County. So just want to make that clear. Pending any questions, that's what I have.
Thank you, Megan. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I guess my question would be, do we want to compound the problem? And I'll just use Ensign Road as an example, or I don't know, the county manager mentioned earlier, whack-a-mole, that they're trying to stay ahead of the problem. Yeah, I don't know if it's proper terminology, but anyway, do we want to compound the problem out there in the community by forcing compliance issues when in fact possibly if we didn't get so carried away with it, maybe it might, if we didn't get down to enforcing the letter of the law, I guess the best way I can put it, almost like speed limits. We don't enforce 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. Maybe we do 10 or 15 or something, depending on the conditions. So would we be better off to, I don't know if you want to call it look the other way, not worry too much about, until we fix this whole homeless thing, about creating more homeless problems by being too nitpicky on enforcing our codes, on allowing a citizen to allow someone, maybe a situation like this. I don't know anything about the situation that you're talking about, but would we be better off to allow that type of activity to take place, because it's kind of in a better environment, say, than forcing that person out onto the public street? Which is the best way to go on this? And maybe we need more discussion on this particular topic to see. It's almost like, you know, we don't write tickets to little girls that run lemonade stands. And so, you know, we're talking about some variance at the health department, maybe variance on this issue until we get something under control, because the issue seems to be getting worse. And if we run people off from a location, it just kind of makes the situation worse as they park on the road. So I'm sorry I didn't see this article or anything, and I don't even know where it's located. So I'm just bringing this up as a question. How do we try to help people? We always want to help people, but we don't want to we don't want 20 vehicles parked on that property and no septic and all this and that. So what is the answer?
And what is the answer is a good question. Is to reiterate the fact that we have not issued any notice of violation to this property owner, the county. We have just issued a letter of contact based on a complaint that we received. So, and staff is just going through the process of responding to complaints that we receive. And the board has been involved in many compliance issues over the last few years in asking staff to be more responsive on the complaints that we have. And that's what we're doing is responding to the complaints that we receive on a daily basis. Whether it's leading to a violation is yet to be seen. And again, just to be clear and repeating that we have not issued a notice of violation to this property owner as stated on this report. The only letter that we have issued is a request for contact to have a conversation with this property owner. That's the extent of the interaction the county has.
I mean, this person, this property owner has a dog that barks. Is that what this is all about?
I think he has more than just one dog.
Oh, he's got a bunch of dogs.
I forwarded you all the link to the report, so you can watch it.
Something, but I didn't digest
I believe the report included about 13 dogs.
Yes.
I didn't get that. Wait, sorry.
So, and I really don't want to get too much into the details of this particular property owner. I don't think it's fair to have this conversation in this setting.
Okay.
And the only thing we can attest to the fact is the county has not issued a notice of violation, and the county has not asked this property owner to vacate the property. That has not occurred.
And I would just say that kind of the balance that we try to strike that kind of goes to what you're shooting for is that we are complaint driven. You know, if no one's bothered by something, we're not out there trying to enforce code to the letter of the law, as you say. But when a citizen complains, then something's going on. It may be legitimate or not, but then we have to kind of respond to that, to be responsive to our constituents as well. So I don't know anything about the situation either, but I know that's kind of how we strike that balance.
Trying to figure a balance.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because we provided that information prior to the report being aired yesterday. And we provided all that information to the reporter, and unfortunately that was not taken into consideration.
I didn't see the report. I mean, if the report, I could see how a reporter might take it up to a higher level and say, you know, there is selective enforcement, like collectively in Thurston County, because of the patchwork of jurisdictions, you get different results in different places. Not that anyone did anything wrong, but if you look at the totality of the county, we're not always consistent. I mean, that's a fair point, I guess. You know,
Well,
that's why we try to do things regionally where it makes sense to do them regionally and coordinate. This isn't an area where we do things the same. So you're gonna get difference, but it doesn't mean that we sought out, you know, somebody to pick on them or whatever. I don't know, whatever the implication was of the report.
And so Megan, I just saw that you sent us all that. So I'll review it. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments. Thank you, Megan. We'll move to briefing, public hearing decisions pending, and it's the TST grant recommendations.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a decision pending by the board. The briefing was held last week, May 5th, which Carrie presented to you the results of the recommendations from the advisory committee on the community work grant awards. And the target of this funding was $400,000 this year and $400,000 next year. During the presentation, it was suggested that perhaps you may consider the recommendation from the advisory board for you to consider funding fully the top 3 applications. That would be the Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship, the Providence Southwest Washington Foundation, and the Pure of Olympia, the full funding request. And the 4th was the Family Support Center to be funded, a portion of that to meet the intended target of the $400,000 this year, $400,000 next year. Also during that conversation, considering at the time of the year, the allocation for those funds will be about $315. The remainder will be in next year. Cumulative, $800,000. That's what probably what the intended suggestions to the board was. How we left it last week, perhaps the staff is going to come back to see if there's any opportunity for the board to consider additional awards beyond the 4 applications the staff submitted to you as part of the recommendations from the advisory board. We look into the financial plan, as you heard from Robin last week. There is a very robust ending fund balance, and included in your packet is a little bit of perspective what the ending fund balance is. So the recommendation from the staff in terms of the dollars and cents, the board, I believe, has the capacity from the financial point of view to fully fund the top 5 applications. That will be including fully funding the Family Support Center of South Sound. In addition to the Pacific, will be the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council, and this will be for $68,333 in 2022 and $136,667 in 2023. And again, based only on the financial capacity that this fund has, knowing that perhaps we need to have a reserve for future needs, that will be the recommendation for the board to consider funding, fully fund the top 5 applications included on the report. That's what I have for you.
Question, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
Didn't we, maybe Commissioner Mentor brought this up, but did the top 5 get to the 90%?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the criteria that we were going to hang our hat on, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, the not 90% is you talk about the score.
Not 90 points.
Yeah, the score going to number 5 is at 90. Below that it goes 88, 88, and 84. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're just going to follow the recommendation and do a little more to do good, right?
Right.
Okay.
2 thumbs over here.
So if I'm hearing correctly then, so family support, instead of being partially funded, would be fully funded? And then fully funded would be the Pac Mountain Workforce Development Council, and then fully funding the Catholic Community Services?
No.
Just Pacific Mountain Workforce?
Yeah, that will be the cutoff line based on the financial report that we provided to. That's the recommendation from the staff.
Okay. I have a question, Carrie. The numbers that came up for the Family Support Center of South Sound, where it was decided to partially fund, those numbers, was that the kind of, where they indicated that that was kind of the least that they could accept, or?
Good morning again, Commissioners. Carrie Hennon, Public Health and Social Services. So I was trying to fit that initial recommendation into the budget that the amount that had been set aside, the $800,000 over 2 years. So had this conversation with them about, what's the minimum that they would accept, and trying to fit it into that 800,000. Obviously, so the one reason that one is easy to sort of play with the numbers is because it's partly staffing and partly rental assistance. As long as we provide the minimum level of staffing, you can sort of scale the rental assistance. You can play with those numbers a little more easily. So adding that, bringing that back up to full funding just provides all the rental assistance they originally budgeted, which means they can serve more people, basically.
Okay. I'm okay with fully funding the Family Support Center of South Sound. I guess like my recommendation would be to, partially fund the Family Education and Support Services program, the Parents for Parents Peer Case Management and Support. Again, I feel like that's such a niche program, and the impact that it has on people going through dependency court is pretty big. So I know that they're currently receiving a grant from us, but if it means being able to keep sustaining that program, I would like to, if we can't do it, I would like to at least partially fund that program if possible.
So can you repeat your proposal, Madam Chair?
Yeah, I was just saying that I'm okay with fully funding the Family Support Center of South Sound program, but mine is to fund the Family Education Support Services, partially fund it.
In not funding the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council?
Correct.
So eliminating number 5 and then moving to number 1, 2, to the bottom, number 8. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay.
I'll pipe in. I'm actually pretty excited about the Pacific Mountain piece because of the reentry. I know reentry is a good investment from my work on criminal justice issues. If we're gonna try to stretch money toward Family Education Support Service, I'd rather stretch it out of the Family Support Center piece myself. And I'm okay with doing that if the board felt that was good.
Let me ask a question about this. Could we see this in dollar amounts, or at least explain it in dollar amounts? It's in here. Because I left my packet from yesterday, but you've got a new one in here, right?
No, it's
from last week.
No, sir, it's included in here.
It is included?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see if I got it.
I'm okay with Commissioner Mentz's proposal.
It's right here, it's right, you have it.
There's
It's right there, you hold it.
Got it, okay. I was trying to hang my hat on that 98 points or something, I guess. Okay, so. I guess what I'm hearing from Commissioner Mentzer, you want to go back and take some funding back away from family support?
Well,
instead of doing what you
Commissioner Mejia was saying, go to, let's see if we numbered them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. She was saying instead of 5, do 9. And I was saying, if we're gonna fund 9, I'd rather take it out 4. Share 4's money with 9 rather than 5. Just because I think that I'm just kind of, I'm really impressed by some of the programs Pacific Mountain Workforce is doing with folks with reentry stuff, and I'd like to see that continue to expand.
And so my recommendation is not to fully fund the Family Education Support Services program, but just partially fund. So just, I guess, instead of doing the 60 for the 2 years, instead of doing 60 each year, so just doing 30 each year.
Terry, how much would have been, if we had accepted the original recommendation and partially funded Family Support Center, how much money would have been left out of their total request? I'm trying to read these numbers right, because they're different for the 2 years.
Before you answer that, Gary, may I? Yeah. I believe you have capacity to fully fund up to number 5 and number 9.
Okay, that was kind of where I was going when we talk about the dollar amount difference, because if we have plenty of money, I'm hearing we have a very healthy fund.
Yeah, because what Commissioner Mejia's request, $60,000 each year, you do have capacity to fully fund that. So, and then you put yourself in cutting one, not the other.
Okay.
So,
And that's kind of where I'm coming from is what would the difference be in the ending fund balance
it is.
of dollar amount? Because we're talking about quite a few millions of dollars in there.
It's included in your, on the back, the
Yeah.
ending fund balance, and it is a very conservative approach, so you do have capacity.
I know, but what's the difference? That's all I'm asking, the difference. If we go, if we do the top 7, top 6,
No,
Only?
it's
Top
not.
5 plus
Top
9.
5 plus 9.
the top 5 plus 9,
Yeah.
okay?
So
And, I mean, we're still gonna have
the ending fund balance by the project in 2022 is 7.2 million.
yeah,
And the projected ending fund balance by 2026 is 2.7 million. The minimum cash flow that we need is 2.4. So an additional 60,000 over 122 years, you do have capacity on that.
okay, we have capacity based on, now I'm trying to squeeze in there the reality of our economic situation that might be developing when we talk about cost of living, inflation, where we're gonna be at in a couple years, I guess. That's kind of where I'm trying to squeeze this in. And so the only thing we would be doing is adding 120,000, so 60 and 60 above. So,
About the recommendation for the staff.
and how does that fit with the chair? Is that a thumbs up with the chair? Or is that oh, look at Carrie's got her hand up there.
May I would agree with the county manager that that's 60,000. From the financial perspective, adding $60,000 per year is doable given the capacity of the fund. The challenge on the staff side is explaining to agencies
Exactly.
6, 7, and 8 why they weren't funded and number 9 was. But if that's the decision of the board, that's what we.
I appreciate that, Carrie, because there's always a challenge. But, I respect the board's prerogative and decision, and this is what it is. And I think they could probably, whomever wants to listen to this conversation, this is recorded, and they can probably follow up as to how that decision-making process came to be.
And then I guess I might add in there that it sounds to me like the chair's got more knowledge than I might have on that particular number 9, I guess, so.
I just want to say that to me, it's different when we're respecting the priorities of the committee and then the commissioners are reaching out to add an additional program that means something to us or that we feel has extra value. Totally different than if we had substituted out. Not that we couldn't do that too also, but it would be a little more controversial to say, we're going to take out number 1 that the committee said and put our choice in there. We're not doing that. We're totally respecting the recommendations of the committee and we're expanding it to meet a commissioner.
A few more things that we
feel strongly about, that Commissioner Mejia feels strongly about, and I've supported in the past, and so has Commissioner Edwards. So
okay.
I think that that's something that the committee should feel good about.
So, Madam Chair, can you allow me just to verbalize this conversation and for you to express your vote?
Yes, go ahead.
So the proposal, I believe the board is considering is to fund Hard Strides therapeutic horsemanship of $53,120 in 2022 and $53,120 in 2023. Funding Providence Southwest Washington Foundation for $149,847 in 2022 and $256,880 in 2023. Gear Olympia for $45,918 in 2022 and $74,824 in 2023. Family Support Center of South Sound for $86,292 in 2022 and $212,102 for 2023. Also funding Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council for $68,333 in 2022 and $136,667 in 2023. In addition, funding Family Education and Support Services for $60,000 in 2022 and $60,000 in 2023. Do I hear a concurrence to move forward with this?
Commissioners,
That's fine.
thumbs up.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. You got that, Carrie?
If you could just type that up in an AIS for me, that'd be great. You just said that so well. Just kidding. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And please relay, I guess from all of the commissioners probably feel the same way. Our thank yous to the committee for working on this. I know it takes a lot of time to review all of these applications, and thank you to you for being here and presenting this today.
So go ahead and submit the AIS for their work, and we'll work on the numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I lost my agenda for a little bit in the stacks of paperwork. Okay, next item is Commissioner's item, and the first one is Olympia School District project funding request.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The board received a letter from the principal from the Thurwood Marshall Middle School as part of the Olympia School District. Co-signed by Thomas Condon, and he is from the Citizen Science Institute. And the letter states that perhaps here's an opportunity to have the Citizen Science Institute students the Marshall Middle School to share their efforts in restoring the local habitat, which including the West Bay Woods, the Grass Lake Park, which also is known as the Ralph Monroe Trail. And this is going to be located within the school grounds. This letter outlines this group has received a grant of $25,000 for environmental literacy to begin the work in restoring the 1.4 acres in the southern end of the school property. This particular letter requests the board to consider matching this grant for $25,000. And also this letter goes on and perhaps suggesting the funding source for this particular allocation being the Stormwater Utility Fund. That is a perspective the offer this letter has. So the conversation that I'd like to have with the board is a little bit of a high level, is whether the board will consider this project to be funded. Whether it's the Stormwater Utility Fund, we need to see the eligibility of this particular fund, whether that is within the context of the eligibility of the Stormwater Fund. But I think the conversation the board needs to have is whether you may consider this request of $25,000 yet to be defined where the money will come from, just to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's on that particular funding source. Obviously, this $25,000, whatever that revenue will be, is not part of the current budget in 2022. If the board may consider this particular request should be part of the budget process, they will be included for the 2023 revision. So that's what probably I'd like to have the conversation from your perspective, whether this project is adequate for you or brings an interest for you to consider. And if so, we'll bring this proposal as part of the overall budget discussion in the fall related to updating the 2023 budget. And at that point, we'll give you the options of funding revenue. I'm not necessarily keen on the Stormwater Utility Fund as they suggest in this letter. We need to do our due diligence to make sure that it's an allowable cost. But again, it's something I request that I'd like to bring for your conversation. And that letter is included on your packet.
Okay, I was reading over the letter right now. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I would just ask the question, what makes this unique that we would want to use the, I don't know, the county taxpayers stormwater fund, but you're saying maybe that's not where it might go.
This is
But why would we want to do this versus something out on Rainier School District or something? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the why here. Why should we step out of bounds, so to speak, with the county's money to do something in the city of Olympia? And we wouldn't do it in Rainier or Tenino or, I don't know, would we do it in Rochester? I don't know.
Well, the board has funded projects in jurisdictions.
Well, I'm sure probably have.
Yeah, the board has funded projects in Rochester, Rainier, Tenino, and also you're considering funding a project within Tumwater. So funding a project within that jurisdiction is not unusual. As to why, I can't answer that question because this is not my request. So I'm just bringing this to your attention.
I mean, I guess that's my question. Why here and now versus elsewhere and now? Who else is going to put in for additional funding if where do we draw the line on our limited resources, whatever they are, whatever fund they come out?
That's all of you, the three of you have to draw the line wherever that is. And again, it's not an unusual request because last year during the biennial budget, you received quite a few requests for you to consider. One of which was considering the redevelopment of the, what is it, historic park in Tumwater? You know, they're gonna revamp that. There is a nonprofit. They came to you, give you a presentation.
That was Conservation Futures money?
No, I think the board assigned the Historic Preservation Fund. They allocated funds for that particular effort. So the unusual request is not unusual because you receive those on a yearly basis. Yeah.
I guess dedicated funding comes in a lot as well, at least in my decisions. Like we just got done with the TST issue. Well, those funds can't be spent anywhere else, basically. I mean, there's certain criteria that has to be met, and then it's eligible for that funding. Here, I don't know what that criteria is or eligibility or even where the money might be coming from. So I guess before I'd want to make any decision, I'd want to see that connection as well. How it all fits, where it comes from, how does it compare to, like you say, Tenino or Rochester, where?
So I hope that I'm not embarking in a full in-depth analysis to compare this request with many other requests.
No,
so so if you direct me to do something, I will be asking to something more specific. You received this letter. I have the obligation to bring this letter to your attention to have this conversation in public. That's what I'm doing. That's the extent of my involvement on this letter.
Well, let's just put it, I'm not there yet, but maybe I will be. Let's hear.
That's fine.
Question, oh, okay, sorry. Commissioner Menser, questions, comments?
Yeah, I think the reason that we got this letter is because I think the people that are working on this are the same folks that work on the projects at McLean School and the Ralph Monroe Trail, which we do, the county has participated by donating mulch, and I don't know if McLean's in the county or McLean's in the city of Olympia, but I've went out and planted trees with them at McLean School, so I think it's the same kind of folks that are doing these projects at schools.
Ralph Monroe.
Ralph Monroe, Bob Barnes. So I think that's why we're getting it. I guess my question, I did have the same question about the kind of the nexus to the county and who would be the partners. They mentioned that this is the headwaters of the Green Cove watershed. So I guess I would like to just hear from, not today, but at some point, a staff member about kind of like that nexus, like a habitat improvement or, I'll call it habitat, it's not habitat, but the improvement project at this location, how does it benefit the county down the stream? I know Green Cove goes right over the city of Olympia boundary into the UGA and off into Puget Sound through the county. But I don't know, at what point do the benefits become not? And it doesn't mean that there's not value to the project from education or some other component, but I guess I'd like to have that little piece of information in terms of, is there a real nexus to the county there in terms of improving the Green Cove watershed? And then, of course, just whatever. And I guess the answer as far as finances is that if it's not stormwater, if that's not appropriate to be stormwater fees, and we're talking about a general fund expenditure, is what I would be my assumption.
Yeah, I mean, the suggestion of stormwater utility, that's, from my point of view, that's no here, no there in this request.
No, I'm just, that's just, I think, an idea they had. But anyway, those are my questions. I mean, I'm interested in knowing a little more information.
Is that where you're coming from in terms of your?
Yeah, I am. I don't know, but I don't want to butt in here before the chair gets to say something.
Thank you, sir. I'll come right back around to you. Yeah, I think those questions that Commissioner Menser asked were great. I would like to see like are there any more partners? Did the city of Olympia also receive a letter? Who else received a letter like this? Are they just going through different kind of trying to find that extra 25,000 and are, kind of touching several partners to see if someone will cooperate with them? Or, what does this, look like in the end? So those are my questions, just kind of from reading. The educational project sounds great, and Commissioner Menser brought up some great information that I would also like to know. So Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, even things like you asked if other entities had been requested or not, that's good to know. But it's even the argument that Commissioner Menser brings up about flowing from one jurisdiction to another and then to another and goes out into the water, that makes me think that ecology would want to jump in here. So
Is that ecology the environmental literacy grant they got? Do we know where that's from? I think it is.
It already is. Okay. Well,
anyway,
more information, it sounds like, at least from my end. So move forward.
So either way, there is no budget authority this year. So I got the information that you need. I'll try to work on that, and I will bring this item on as part of budget deliberations for next year. And hopefully at that time we'll address all the questions you had today.
Can you let the correspondents know that that's kind of what is happening?
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then it is 12. And so going on to other commissioner items, is there anything pressing that commissioners would like to discuss? Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you.
I think being we're out of time, I am curious. Mr. Pettit brought a letter to our attention about whether or not certain things had taken place for bids and I have to say, I'm curious about that. Vouchers, approvals, did we take an action?
You will this afternoon as you take every week.
Yeah, but will we be seeing something? I didn't bring this up earlier when we were talking about this morning's issue mainly because I thought, well, I'd probably bring it up at today's meeting because I'm obviously going to vote against that. Department item number 4, I guess it is on the voucher portion, which is now a vote. And my concern is, have we met all those legal requirements that we've had a resolution, we voted on a resolution, we did a contract with the parties involved. I don't know who those people are, but if we're gonna make an expenditure, have we got it covered? And I'm gonna be bringing that up at our regular meeting at 2 o'clock. So.
Yeah, and we will not be bringing anything illegal for the board to vote on. And I'm gonna be stating this statement every afternoon from this point forward. And I would like to follow up to Mr. Petty's comments that he has provided today, as well as many other related comments related to this particular matter that we have received on the Commissioner's office, alleging wrongdoing and the county is operating outside of the context of the law. All such allegations have been discussed in many executive sessions, as all of you have been part of that, Commissioners. And as a result, and under the advisement of the elected prosecutor, through his deputy prosecutor attorneys, have been determined the county is operating within the context of the law. And in fact, to follow up on your request last week, Commissioner Edwards, I have yet another executive session scheduled next Wednesday. And I will bring the prosecutor and the deputy prosecutor attorneys for you to answer all the questions that you have related to the allegations of wrongdoing and corruption that we continue to have on a daily basis. And I'm sure this afternoon we'll get the same allegations of wrongdoing and corruption. And again, we'll go through the process of executive sessions for you to ask all the questions to your attorneys as to how we are operating within the context of the law.
Okay. Madam Chair, can I follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I've used the term corruption yet. I do feel there's wrongdoing.
No, you, but we have.
Yes, I know.
Yep.
I know. But I do feel that we're not following the law. I guess that's what I'm going to put from my perspective at this point in time. And I want to use a couple of examples. And it doesn't involve any staff here now, I don't think, or board members. But in 2004, staff told the then county commissioners, well, you can move all these operations, go over to Tumwater. We'll do it over there. And they said, yeah, that's fine. Staff said, good, go do it. Well, in 2004, the court ruled that no, you can't go to Tumwater. And in the process, what came of that, the county had purchased some property. We ended up building a $100 million jail or something over there. It sat there empty. So I'm saying that at this point, there's a discrepancy between what staff has told us currently, but I'm referring to what they told commissioners in the past. Staff said, yes, you can do this. The court said, no, you can't do this. Consequently, that cost us quite a bit of problems, I guess I'll say, with the county jail that eventually did get built over there. Never did work out right, sat empty for years. Still is not a very good location. Then I'll make reference to 2013. Somehow or another, with the Maytown decision that came about, staff must have been arguing all along that, and I wasn't there for that argument, hey, we're okay, we're doing the right thing here. The Supreme Court of the state of Washington ruled 9-0 against the county in the end, and it cost the taxpayers $16 million to settle an award. I'm concerned about that. That doesn't mean that there was corruption, but there was information that wasn't correct. I'm worried today that we don't have correct information. We've been given information that very plainly say you can't do this, or you can't spend here, or you can't move here. And then we're going out to look and see if we can find an exemption that allows us to do this. We maneuver around trying to figure out a way around this. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think we should always follow the letter of the law. We've got a history of not being successful when we don't. And that's the only reason I keep bringing this up and why I'm such a stickler. I was as a lawman for 40 years, I was following the law. In this case, I don't think we're following the law. Am I saying we're illegal? I don't know that we're illegal because courts make that determination. I'm not willing to put my job on the line as some of the RCWs say that we are doing if we move forward. So consequently, I'm kind of a stickler about making sure that my voice is heard. I'm hoping that my seatmates will hear that same concern and do something different. I don't know if that's gonna happen or if the courts are gonna make a determination. And then in the end, when it all comes right down to it, every court case, there's a winner and a loser. And we don't know who wins or loses until it's over. So I feel we're moving ahead inappropriately. And I think we should be following the letter of the law unless we can have a discussion in public, not in an executive session. And the reason I say that, I want to have that discussion in which I'm being convinced that we're doing the right thing. I want the public to hear why. Well, under RCW this and this, we've got an exemption and we can do this. So that makes it legal. I don't know that now. I'm having staff tell me, oh, we're okay. But they also told prior county commissioners, oh, you're okay. You can go over to Tumwater. But in the end, the court said no. And it caused a lot of problems. We bought a fish plant over there that we ended up not needing, sold it at a loss. We got a poor location for a jail. We're stuck. We've got a property over there yet that we'd like to do something with. We haven't figured out. And it all comes about because we were trying to figure out a way around the law. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to figure out a way around the law. I want to figure out a way to always do the right thing all the time. And so that's kind of where I'm at on this whole thing.
With all due respect, that's a heavy statement. We are trying to go around the law.
Well, that's the way I view it, and I don't understand why we can't do it
with
out
all due
front.
respect, every single allegation that has been put before you has been discussed in executive session with your attorneys who understands the law. That's their job. And in no case, we have found a way to go around the law. With all due respect, I disagree with that statement, Commissioner.
Okay.
We've been here dozens of times, and when it's something you wanted to do, you have many times say, let's just do it and see what happens. I don't care if the lawyers say it's not legal, let's stretch, let's do it. If it's something you want to do, you are more than willing at a hair's breadth to stretch the law and take a chance. This is something you don't want to do, so you have a completely different attitude, but let's just be honest about that. I agree with what the county manager said, that staff can tell you one thing or another, and they may or may not be right, but You can't get an advisory opinion from a court. The best you can do is have legal advisors who understand the law, giving you opinions. We've had not even a shadow of a question about anything that we've done. So I'm disappointed by the continued statement, which is purely political in my opinion, to just continually say we're operating outside the law, we're not following the law. You know that's not true. I'd ask you who your source is for that. If we need to get, what do we need to do to lay that to rest? Bring in John Thunheim, hire a law firm from Seattle to tell you what, I don't know what it is that will make you feel that that statement is inappropriate to say, because it's not reflecting well on our staff, our lawyers, your seatmates on this board, because there's no basis for it. So I guess I'll just leave it there, but I mean.
I do have a response, sir.
I don't want to get into kind of the nitty-gritty of this. It is 12:12.
Well.
And we have an executive session scheduled next week for this.
That was my other point, Madam Chair. If I could just finish. I knew there was one more thing. Yeah. I don't understand how a public discussion, if you've been told by lawyers what the argument is, the fact that advice to you happened with public hearing or not shouldn't change your evaluation of that advice and whether or not you believe it. Having the public see the argument doesn't make the action illegal or illegal. That's a completely separate issue, whether that should be done in a public setting, but it shouldn't affect your position and you coming forward and saying, well, I don't think it's legal because the advice that I was given that it was legal didn't happen in a public setting. That's kind of I don't understand the logic of that argument.
Madam Chair, could I just take a quick response?
Quick response, and then I kind of want to respond.
Okay. There's a big difference between me opting to take a chance on, well, is this going to fit on an expenditure or something like that on an issue that doesn't have an RCW attached to it. And that RCW says that if you violate this RCW, you not only could lose your position as a county commissioner, you could be required to pay back the loss to the taxpayers. So that is the big piece of that issue. When it comes to the executive session, all I want it in writing. Why? I guess I don't care if we're in executive session, but give it to me in writing so that I can digest why RCW 1234 is not applicable. It might not be applicable because RCW 7 and 8 exempt it. I don't know that. I'm just told. No.
I understand there's a value to being able to show Mr. Pettit or show someone in public. That's a value, but you've heard it, so it shouldn't affect your position.
I have never heard to where I'm convinced that doesn't override that. I've heard that there's an Attorney General ruling from 1978 that may or may not be applicable. The law was changed since 1978. And we keep refusing to move forward with a legal opinion to allow us to see in writing, we're okay. Somebody saying we're okay doesn't mean we're okay. There's always several opinions when any case goes to court. One wins and one loses. So for the history, just a minute, County Manager. For the history of moving to Tumwater, I'll just use that as an example, 2004, same attorney. So, okay, anyway, I'm gonna be cut off. There'll be more discussion at our 2 o'clock meeting. Please tune in.
I will bring all the attorneys, including the county prosecutor, to the executive session, so you can ask all those questions directly to him and his staff next week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 12:15. I just kind of want to be respectful of everyone's time. I did have one question for the county manager for Commissioner item, but I want to be, Commissioner Menser, do you have any commissioner items?
No, nothing burning.
For me, it's about the OFM. I've been getting asked about if we've gotten the population results from Office of Financial Management, and I went and looked on their website. I couldn't find it, and they said April, so I was just wondering if we received anything.
Yeah, they're going to be releasing by the end of June. But I'm gonna be working on the next steps, assuming that we will reach the 300,000. So I will not be waiting to get the final results in June to begin the process. So, and in fact, I will be starting that process for your consideration. Obviously predicated on reaching the 300,000 for your point. So that's the latest that I have on that.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned, commissioners. We will be back at 2 p.m. Thank you.